decision at a time. It's impossible. So if you are coming into the room today and you say to yourself, you know, I'm looking to do anything but the work I'm supposed to do, you can do that. But it's going to have consequences. I look at Randy wearing his wrestling hood over there. Wrestling is a great sport to teach you all about this. I'm not saying that you deserve consequences right now. It's just that wrestling is such a good sport, and you reminded me with the hood. My very first year of coaching, I thought that all we needed to do to be successful was to psych my team up. And if I psyched my team up, we would be really, really good. Has anybody here ever been to Saxton?
Yeah.
Have you ever been underneath the gym in the hallways down under the gym? I call them the catacombs. They kind of echo when you holler down there and stuff. And my first year of coaching was coaching the Saxton wrestling team. And after about the first 4 or 5 matches, we had won them all. And I thought that our team was good because I gave great psych-up speeches.
What's that called?
Psych-up means get them ready to run out there and do their best.
Motivation?
Yeah, definitely motivation. So then are we okay there, Diego? So then we were going to wrestle this team called Brentwood South. And Brentwood South was really good. One of my very close friends, whom many of you guys know, is a man named Mr. DeFici. And Mr. DeFici coached the Oregon Avenue wrestling team at the time, and Oregon was always a great team. Melvin, knees under desk. And Oregon got beat up pretty good by Brentwood South. Their coach was a man named Warren Walker. And Warren Walker is the only middle school wrestling coach in the history of the United States of America to be featured in Sports Illustrated magazine for being an amazing coach. And then I talked to Craig Kelsky, who was our varsity wrestling coach, and he said to me, Bob, if I was going to go wrestle Brentwood South, I would make sure my kids could counter cradles. Those kids are going to be so good with cradles. And DeFici said, you better make sure that you know how to stop a half and wrist, because they've got great half and wrists. And I just said to myself, I remember dismissing what they said to me. And I said, they don't know what they're talking about. I could just psych my guys up, and my guys will be so ready to wrestle. They'll be so motivated that we'll go out there and kill those guys. Well, they walked into the room, and we wrestled on St. Patty's Day of 1986.
1986.
1986. And my team lost 61-3.
Oh, you guys.
Worst beating I ever got. And I started to realize right then and there that motivational speeches don't do a whole lot. What matters is preparation, how well you prepare. So the next year we went up against Brentwood South, and I think we lost around 30-20. It might have been 33 or 35-20, but we did a lot better. And their coach, for some reason, liked me. And he said, listen, why don't we scrimmage together? And when we would start scrimmaging together, he would start teaching me his techniques. And I started to learn them. Well, the next year we wrestled them, we beat them. And the year after that, Warren Walker's last year as a coach, we beat them really good. We beat them like upwards of 50-10. We pounded them. And the difference between me as a rookie coach and me as a 4th and 5th year coach is that by the time I got to be in my 4th or 5th year, I understood that every second of practice is precious. When we walk in that room, either we are preparing to defeat the opposition or we're not. And if we choose to fart around in practice, if we choose not to go hard after it, if we choose not to push each other, then we choose to get tired in the 3rd period. Then we choose when that tough street kid from Longwood or from CI steps onto the mat to allow them to maybe be tougher than us. We allow that. If we're going to beat that team, we have to take advantage of every opportunity that we have to make ourselves better. Now, if you think that Brentwood South and Warren Walker are tough, you're right. But they're not a fraction of as tough as life is. Life is way tougher. Your parents live it every day. You probably see your mom and your dad come through the door exhausted at night. You probably see their worry about paying bills, about providing you with food, about how they're gonna get through the week. Maybe they're gonna lose the apartment, maybe they're gonna lose the house. Life has a way of kicking your ever-living butt. Now, what I can promise you is that if you take your schoolwork seriously and you learn how to be a really good worker, you do not need to be a math person in the future. You don't even need to be a scholastic person in the future. But school will teach you how to succeed. It's what wrestling does. And if you learn those things, you will be successful in the world and you will be victorious. But if you keep coming to class every day saying to yourself, I'd rather not pay attention. I'd rather not do what I'm responsible to do. If you keep saying, I'm gonna do this, I'm only gonna do what I feel like doing, rather than what you're expected to do. If you're going to be like that, then you need to understand that just like my wrestling team got our butts kicked by Brentwood South 61-3 because we weren't prepared, my fault. And then as I learned to prepare better, we got better and better and better until we were the better team. Likewise, if you come into class every day saying to yourself, yeah, I'd rather daydream, I'd rather doodle, I would too. I'd rather whistle, I'd rather tie flies. There's a lot of things I'd rather do, but I understand that if I don't do my job, you suffer. How much worse is it for you if you don't do your job? 257 more teaching days, I don't come to work anymore. I get to stay home and collect money.
Do you count it like in the calendar?
Yeah, it's right up there.
You cross out the days?
Yes.
Days left of suffering.
You know, it's not suffering. I love my job. I really do. I don't think I suffer at all. But you know what it is? There's just other things I want to do in life before I die. It's as simple as that. There's places I want to go. There's things I want to do. And every day when I come to work, I don't get that option. You know, my dad, I'm the first person in my family to ever go to college.
You are?
My dad was a railroad conductor. My mom was a school bus driver and a beautician. First person to ever go to college in the family. And I remember, particularly like my junior and senior years of high school, there were so many days where I would literally fall asleep at my desk doing homework, doing extra to try to get the best grades possible. And I remember my dad, he would always work the night shift on the railroad, and he would come home at like 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, and he'd wake me up from sleeping with my head down on the desk, and he'd say, come on, you gotta go to bed. And I would go into the bed, and I would get my sleep, and then I would get up at 6 o'clock, and I would start the whole process over again. And then I remember, I bought a house from him. It was my great-grandmother's house. I rebuilt the house. I sold the house for $100,000 profit. I rolled that $100,000 into the house I now currently own. And I remember when I moved into that house, my dad, who he never said he loved me, I never had a good relationship with him at all. I just remember him leaning onto the deck as it overlooked my built-in pool that has now collapsed. And I remember him turning toward me saying, you did it, kid. You really, really did it. And what he meant was, all of those nights of working hard, all of those times at school, all those days of doing my homework when I'd rather have been fishing, all of those opportunities to learn that I took advantage of. And what he didn't understand is that that wasn't the full picture. Now the full picture comes into play in the next 257 teaching days. Because then I sell my house, I move upstate, I live where I would rather live, I get the property I would rather have, I live the lifestyle I would rather live, and I get to do it all without ever working a day again the rest of my life and getting paid to do it. So when you come to school, a lot of kids, they think about the here and the now, the moment, and they say to themselves, I don't feel like doing work now, so I'm not gonna do it. You can do that. But you need to understand that if you do that again and again and again and again, if you constantly do that, then, okay, if you do that again and again and again, and you constantly turn around and make the decision to not do work, then all of a sudden, a couple of years later go by, and you box yourself into decisions where you can't have the kind of future that I think you could. Like if I said to you guys right here and right now, if I said, hey, how many of you guys want to be in a position where you get a good job that pays reasonably well, or better, when you're 25 years old? Everybody's gonna raise their hand. How many people want a really nice job when you're 30, 35, 40 years old? How many people want to be able to provide for their families? How many people want a decent car when they get older? Every single, hey, every single hand in the room is gonna go up. If I said to you guys, the boys I'm speaking to now, how many of you want to be able to bench press 250 pounds when you're in 11th grade?
I am. Look at
Well,
this.
you're not gonna bench press 250 pounds unless you start working out. And if you think that you can have a successful future without working out, the odds are strongly against you. Think about the people that you see in your life right now. I want you to think about the least successful person or some of the least successful people that you know. Please don't name any names. Just think to yourself. It could be a relative.
Like family or friends?
It could be a relative. It could be a friend. It could be a neighbor. Now think about the most successful people you know. Again, it could be a neighbor, could be a relative, could be family. And think about the difference in how they go about their business. And then ask yourself, which one are you most like? Because if you are not like the successful person, then odds are you're not gonna be successful. So, every day when you come in this room, there's never you versus me. We are never, ever gonna have an argument. It is you versus yourself. You know what to do. You know I know what I'm talking about. You know I've paid a mortgage for 30-something years. You know that I have raised children. You know that life has beat the tar out of me. You know that I have overcome the beatings that I've taken. You know all of these different things. If you think that you can sit there as a 13-year-old and understand what I have lived through, you have no clue. Now, you can either learn from the experience of others like myself, like your teachers, like your parents, like your grandparents, like the people you respect, or you can learn on your own. But if you learn it on your own, you're gonna come to the same conclusion. It's gonna hurt a whole lot more than if you learn from other people. So it's you versus you. You figure it out. Now, as far as solving these equations go, we got a handful of different types of equations here. The first one is a standard two-step equation, but I put a fraction in the front. We did some of these on the homework the other day. Die? 3/4 x equals 9. Who remembers how to solve it when it says 3/4? Davis?
Don't you multiply it
By what?
by 3 or 9?
No. The key to remember is to use the reciprocal of 3/4. 4/3. So you do multiply, Davis. You just have to make sure you multiply by the reciprocal. Die. That's what lets me with x equals, which is what I want. Then 3 goes into 9 3 times. 3 times 4 is 12. Now, on your calculator, you can do a number times a fraction. How many people do not remember how to use the fraction button on the calculator? No, Alex, sit down. Next time, get it on the way in the room, or you're not gonna get it. All right, here's how you use the fraction button. Ready? Everybody, the fraction button says ABC.
I know.
So the way you put in 3/4 in the fraction button is you hit 3, fraction button, the ABC button. I'm sorry, it's supposed to be 4/3. Start again. Do 4, fraction button, which is ABC, 3, and then do times 9. And when you do that, it will tell you 12. Okay? So, life with fractions just got a whole lot nicer. Okay, next up. X squared is 49. What number times itself is 49? 7, good. Another way to do it is this. Square root. X is 7, and you can take your calculator and do square root 49 and get it. X cubed means what number, John, times itself, and then again, used as a factor 3 times, is 8. 2 it is, very good. X is 7. Okay, next up. I don't understand why that's happening. But I can do this.
Well, you've been teaching for 20 years.
Frankie, I'm getting really, really close to just throwing down the room. It's not that any one thing you're doing is really that bad. It's that you're doing enough little things, and what's happening is it's distracting all the people around you. So for their sake, I'll get you out of here. Understand? Your decision to make, bud. Now, a computer can do an operation in 3.1 times 10 to the negative -7 seconds, which means that it can do 3.7 times 10, 3.1, I'm sorry, times 10 to the 7th in 1 second. Now, it says 4 hours, but that's in a second, so how many seconds are in a minute? 60. Now, how many minutes are in an hour? 60. And this one says 4 hours. So let's do this. Let's do 60 times 60 times 4, which I think is 1,440, but check on your calculator and let's see. 60 times 60 times 4.
1,000.
440?
Yeah, 1,440.
Good. So it becomes 3.1 times 10 to the 7th, and this was 1,440, which is 1.44 times 10 to the 3rd. Now, do 3.1 times 1.44. 3.1 times 1.44. And what do you get? What is it? 4.46. 4 times 10 to the 10, and that is in scientific notation form, so I don't need to adjust it. Okay? Next question. Which of these is quadratic? Which of those choices is the quadratic function? Kenneth? No, A is not quadratic. A is what we call linear because doesn't it look like y equals mx plus b? That's the line, right? The one that's quadratic is C. And what makes you know it's quadratic is it has a squared term. Now, I don't think you got that wrong because of you. I think you got it wrong because of me. I haven't emphasized that as much as I should have, but we're now going to start emphasizing it the next few days. So from this point forward, you should remember that. Whenever you see the exponent squared, we call that a quadratic. We did a couple of graphs of parabolas earlier in the year, like maybe a month ago, all right? And a graph is a parabola is this. Evaluate each of the functions for an input of -3. 3 times -3 is -9. -9 minus 4, -13. 4 times -3 is -12, plus 2 is -10. Exponents first, you gotta do order of operations. -3 squared is 3, times 2, 18. Oh, it's 9, I'm sorry. 3 squared is 9, times 2 is 18. Okay, any questions? All right. So, this is a good representation of review type of work of what we've been doing for, whatever, the last couple of weeks, so on and so forth. And all of a sudden, we are now going to get into new stuff. Geometry, which is what we're studying now, is pretty much divided into 2 sections. The first type of geometry that we learn is transformation geometry. That is rotations, translations, dilations, reflections. We did a lot of that sort of stuff. The second type are all about congruence and angles and so on and so forth, supplementary, complementary. So now we start working on congruence. Now congruent means the same exact size and the same exact shape. Do you ever see identical twins?
Yeah.
Identical twins, as long as they are in the same shape, are congruent. But fraternal twins, can't fraternal twins look different?
Yeah.
So they're not congruent. Congruent means same exact size, same exact shape. Now, this is a picture of 2 intersecting lines. Intersecting just means that they touch. Now, as you look here, can you see that certain angles are across from each other, like this one and this one? Those 2 angles, when they're across from each other in intersecting lines, and you can tell because they make the letter X, those angles are called vertical angles. Okay? Once again, what are they called, everybody? And what kind of lines create vertical angles? Intersecting lines, and they make the letter
X.
X. Okay, good. So we would say that angle R is congruent, that's the symbol for congruent. It's an equal sign with a squiggle or a tilde on top. Angle U. These two guys are equal. The ones across from each other are equal. Is there another pair of angles that are equal? Davis?
S and T.
S and T, very good. So this was actually an old state assessment test question, and it says which pairs of angles are congruent? Which ones do you think are congruent?
O.
A, B, C, or D?
C.
Let's see. T and S are congruent, yes? U and R are congruent, good. Angle T is congruent to angle S. Okay? Any questions about that? Good. For a lot of kids, a lot of kids who struggle with math during the year find this particular section to be a lot easier because it's just it requires different skills. Okay. Next up, if angle R measures 55 degrees, how big is angle S? If angle R is 55, how big is angle S? Ready? Excellent, 55 it is. Remember, they are vertical angles because they're across from each other, the letter X intersecting lines. So those angles are equal. 55 degrees is the correct answer. Any questions? No. Good. All right, let's go to the next question about vertical angles. Oh, actually, we're good. Your job now is to start your homework. So get started, rock it out. We'll talk more about vertical angles tomorrow, complementary, supplementary. We'll get all those things done. Yes? I gotta check and see if you have passes left. I don't mind if you guys work together on your work right now. If you're able to get your homework done, you got nothing to do when you get home. Your call, your choice. No.